All right. So, you know what I want to talk about today, but the conversation we just had offline, I was like, you know what, let's go ahead and get started with that.
Okay.
But what I really want to converse about um, is I want to have a conversation about these headwinds we're going into. And look, I'm always careful now about my predictions. I mean, I've always been careful about my predictions, but I really made a bad prediction 2 years ago. Like I just knew the real estate market was going to go belly up. I just knew it was going to happen, especially immediately following the pandemic. But of course, we got the stimulus package. The government pumped millions, not billions of dollars into the economy. And I think that's what kept the real estate market from going belly up because all that, quite frankly, damn near free cash that was rolling around, right?
Hmm.
Um, but this time around, I am like more adamant than ever that I really believe a downturn is coming. Not because I'm gleeful about it, but I just think it's going to happen, right? You look at inflation not going anywhere. Actually, the interesting thing is I don't think housing prices are going to go down anytime soon. That correction everybody's waiting for, I don't think it's coming anytime soon, especially with the lack of housing that's available in relationship to the demand. Um,
Absolutely.
so, given a lot of the things that are going on, the layoffs that are transpiring, the fact we got an administration, and look, whether you're a fan of them or not, the bottom line is they're unpredictable. Investors don't like unpredictable environments, right? So that's going to cause problems from time to time too. But between that, people's incomes not, I'm just curious to know. We'll get into it, but because I'm not going to let this go. I'm curious to know what your thoughts are, because I have some ideals in terms of what people can do to have success despite the hardship that I think is coming around the corner. In any respect, so we were talking about dealing with duds.
Oh yeah. Oh, big time.
Yeah,
It's a
dealing with
it's
the duds.
it's a pandemic out here of duds. People who
Ha!
want I'm so serious. They want to
Yeah,
sit on the nail and they want to complain about it, but they don't want to take action.
yeah. Um, yeah, I wanted to have this conversation on lines. I thought it's very useful, regardless of what entrepreneur endeavor you're involved in your industry in. So there's a couple things I think about, right? And advice I would share with you or anyone that is dealing with duds, people wasting their time, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. For me, there's this framework that I have. You've heard me say this a million times, but I'm gonna say it again. I'm looking for ideal clients. How do I define an ideal client? Number one, someone who's looking for my solution. Now they may not know how it's dressed up, but they're looking for the solution, right? They've made up their mind that I need to do something about this. And for me, I'm a perfect example of that. Like I want to 10x the group benefit side of what it is that I do, right? So I know I need to find a way to significantly increase the volume of business owners with 50 to 250 employees I need to chat with. And I need them to be individuals who are going to be receptive, kind of looking for what it is that we do. So there's several programs that I'm looking at. I'm looking at Apollo, I'm looking at Zoom Info, there's like two, three others. And the bottom line is I'm going to make a decision. And it's not going to be predicated on cost. It's going to be predicated upon, is this going to help me be profitable? Because I'll pay $50. I'll pay $3,000 a month. If I'm paying 50 or 3,000, but I'm closing three extra businesses per month in the group benefits arena, that is going to basically put me in a situation where I'm 20, 30K. So I'm not even paying attention to the cost of these programs. I'm just paying attention to whether or not they can help me, right? So I've made up my mind. I'm looking for a solution. If you come to me with it and it makes sense and you can show me receipts, let's go. I'll make the investment. You know what I mean? You're
For
looking for people who
the investment for like Zoom or
Zoom info,
Zoom info.
but
Okay.
it's several of them I'm looking at. But the bottom line is I'm looking for a platform that's going to help me identify businesses that fit the industry demographics, things that I'm looking for,
Okay.
right? I
Mhm.
need to have audience with them, right? And I'm trying to create a situation where I end up cherry picking the best prospects because in my ecosystem, I'm probably one of the best quote unquote salespersons or closers. I think it's hard. And I work with a lot of people. And I think most people tell you, Juwan, look, brother's a beast. Like,
I agree. I concur. I agree.
yeah.
Yep.
So, and then the ones that are like B, I'm gonna turn over to other people because if I'm paying for the platform and I can't keep up with all of them, look, if you performing, here you go, right? Anyway, then I think about, and you hit the nail on the head when we conversed earlier. Do they have the disposable income?
Yes.
Do they have the disposable income? And then the other one, which to me is more problematic, I need people who make blink decisions. You can tell me no, I'm good. You can tell me yes, even better. But you can't maybe me. Maybe I'll do it today, maybe tomorrow, maybe next week, maybe next month, maybe this year, maybe 20 years from now. No.
The wishy-washy.
Yeah, it's like, make up your mind. It's all good. No is okay. No, to me, that just means not right now.
Right. Just
You,
execute is what
yeah,
you. Yeah.
you don't know enough to make a decision. Say that. I can
Right.
send you some additional information. We can revisit this. But this nonsense that you think I'm gonna keep, no. So I look, because we know those people. They wait till the engine lights on, the car is smoking, the muffler is dragging, the car is about to burst into flames. And
Right.
they finally say, "Oh, I think I should take this mechanic." I'm looking for proactive people, right? And that's how I kind of decide whether or not I'm going to continue to engage with you in that kind of business development, sales development funnel, that process, right? And I put everyone through that same criterion. And if one of the three are missing, then you become a B prospect, and if two are missing, become a C prospect. So everyone I talk to, that's the process I'm going through when I'm talking to them. It's not personal. It's not ad hominem. It's not a reflection on their character. It's just like, I need to spend the uber majority of my time on my ideal clients. So do you show up on time? When I send you the information, do you look at it? Are you prepared when we have a meeting? If you need to cancel a meeting, you notify me in advance, tells me a lot about you and how you do business.
Well, and it
Right?
shows that they respect your time and you as
Right.
well.
Right.
Like the people
So,
that at the last minute, it's like, okay, so obviously there's,
but you know what it also tells you? It tells you how they manage their affairs.
absolutely. Or the lack thereof
Yeah.
of managing their affairs.
Mhm.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure.
So this is the advice I would give you. Number one, even if I know someone is a B prospect, let's say, sometimes I'll still meet with them because every dud knows a stud. I want the referrals, right? When I'm talking to someone or engaging someone, all I'm thinking, if I realize they're not maybe my ideal client, is I'm thinking, man, they know 100 people I don't know. They know 500 people I don't know. The average Joe has 100 to 500 people on their contact list. And if they're in business, at least that. So I'm still willing to meet with them. I'm still willing to massage that relationship. I'm still willing to have a conversation to communicate my value prop as effectively as possible, not convincingly, but as effectively as possible. Because if they believe it's valuable, they might be inclined to refer me to other people.
Absolutely.
So that's the first thing. That way you're not wasting your time with people who are duds or not your, you shouldn't really be messing around with them too much. I'm looking for referrals. And as you know, I reciprocate. If you refer people to me, I'm going to refer people to you.
Right.
Now, it might not be immediate all the time, and there's very few people since I've been in business for 20 years where if you send me information and I'm clear about who you are and what you do, a referral's coming your way, especially if you refer people to me, right? And then there's other forms of compensation too, but another discussion. So that's the first thing I think about when I'm listening to you. The other thing I'm thinking about is you still have to have a place to put the duds.
Yeah.
So I use MailChimp because I'm a Neanderthal and I'm not willing to learn the more advanced platforms. Right? For me, it's MailChimp. But there's a lot of different, we have Prospect. I mean, there's so many tools out there. But unless the person is just straight up like, personality, values, principles, like we don't vibrate at all. Otherwise, I'm putting them in MailChimp. And anyone who's in my ecosystem, eventually you'll get a MailChimp, notification. I'll ask you, do you mind if I send you some information? You say, yeah, you go into MailChimp. And I send campaigns at least once a week. On rare occasions, 2 times a week when my head is in the sand and I'm just grinding, right? But I cannot tell you how many duds over the years have become studs. I cannot tell you how many times people have emailed me or called me out the blue, where 5 years ago they weren't my ideal client. I had no business talking to them. They had no business talking to me, but life changed. They leveled up. Maybe they were looking at my content and took some advice and leveled up and grew, right? So I've been giving them value over the years, and I have an appointment scheduled next week. That's exactly what happened this past Friday. I looked up, someone emailed me, hey, you still doing that thing? I said, yeah, I'm still doing that thing. I called him up. We had a brief conversation. He says, look, I'm married. My priorities have changed in terms of my business, and I need your help. That, right? So I just don't think you should throw away anyone. You should have systems. You should have, number one, a paradigm to decide, a framework of deciding who you should spend your time with. And then you should have systems in place. So when that person graduates or evolves or changes, or sometimes their life circumstances change, they can still find you. You know what I mean? Like, okay. So we both are involved in real estate. Of course, you far more than I am. But there are people who are not going to buy a home today, but maybe 5-10 years from now.
Yeah.
I don't care if it's 5 years from now. I want you in my ecosystem, right? So when you buy that home, what you think about me?
Right.
And of course, if you have family members or friends who are looking to buy a home.
Or rent.
Yeah.
We do over renters too. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I'll tell you what, because you and I both chuckle about this a lot. I remember you'll say, Jawan, sometimes you're just so nice. You're so patient, right?
You are.
But I'm going to tell you, there was a time where I wasn't.
Okay.
And one of the most important lessons I've learned over the years, or what's kind of mellowed me out quite a bit, and I think I've heard this from John Hope Bryant a couple times. I think he says this quite a bit on some of the podcasts he's done. But now I really work very hard, and sometimes it is difficult with some of the people we deal with. I work very hard to leave a person's esteem intact.
Okay.
I try to find ways to let people off easy. Like, you can be a dumb apple. You can be just idiotic, absurd. But I try to leave people's esteem intact.
Okay.
I just, years ago, I used to be like, man, you lame. You wasting my time. You on
like right to their face?
Oh, man, look. If you showed up late or no show 2 times, the 3rd time, I was gonna let you know about yourself.
Okay, makes sense.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, or if just all the games people play, right? Where they say I'm gonna commit to this and then they don't do it, or they try to not pay you what they say they're going to pay you for services rendered.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Stuff like that. I used to just be. It was not a polite, cordial discussion when someone showed up like that in my life. Now I'm just way more effective at getting those people out of my space and getting them into my system.
Mm-hmm.
And I leave people's esteem intact. Because here's the one thing, particularly in Detroit Metro. This is a very small community.
Yeah, it is.
And people will hate on you. They will hate on you just because you're winning and they're not. And
or not like you, but still see that you're taking care of business and be like, oh, hey, I see you, blah, 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 blah. They'll want to do business with you, but they really don't like you, but they respect you because they know you're, right. Making moves.
Yeah. And you just gotta be careful, man. People where they feel like you've hurt their esteem or their feelings, they will fight, even if it benefits them to be around you, even if it benefits them to do business with you, they will go out and fight against you harder than your own enemy.
I agree.
They will.
Even if you're ignoring somebody who you know doesn't like you, I think sometimes that really exacerbates them even more if you're like not engaging and they're maybe, because like, women are catty sometimes. And, there may be somebody, because I've had this happen where like they've made assumptions about you based on your appearance or based on, how they feel your life is going, based on their experiences. And then they'll project certain stuff on you. And if you don't engage, then it like makes it like it's eating them alive and they're just trying everything they can to get you to respond. And the more you don't respond, the more they're just like adamant and like, doing stuff to try to, even sabotage you. And you'll just be like, oh, like, okay, like time out. Like, that's not an income generating activity. So I'm not going to engage.
Exactly.
And again, it's like, you sometimes you have to like you said, take the high road and, hold those kind of people up in prayer because that's really what they need. They need prayer. And, that's just gotta, let go and let God. So,
yeah, I mean, yes, I agree with everything you said, but to me, it doesn't even land as taking a high road anymore. You just hit the nail on the head. Fighting and going back and forth and getting into disputes and conflicts with people, those are not revenue generating activities.
Yeah, it's not an income generating activity.
No.
Yeah.
No. Not short term or long term.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a waste of your energy and your resources. We talk about that a lot in real estate. I was talking about it with my broker the other day. And a lot of times when I feel like it's not an income generating activity, I will go out of my way to avoid it because it's like I have way too many other things I need to focus on. It's not enough hours in the day. And I know you agree because you're busy too. Like enough hours in a day to like do everything I want to do, let alone things that are like counterproductive and, draining or just ridiculous, So
yeah, I agree. Yeah, I agree. So hopefully that helps you out in terms of you need a CRM. Get yourself a CRM that you.
Oh, I have one, but it's for like my other business, but I do need one for this one too.
You need just a general one. Like,
well, I could use the one that I have as a general one if I wanted to, and then just like hashtag,
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's what I like about MailChimp. It allows me to set different groups, different segments, and I can pick and choose. Right.
Okay.
Because the situation I did have is I had like 3 different CRMs for 3 different verticals, and I was like, oh hell no, this is costing me like a car note.
Do you have an assistant that like helps you manage your CRM?
So funny enough, I'm in discussions. I already had one previously, but I had to rearrange my business model and a whole bunch of other stuff over the last couple months. So she and I re-engaged again.
Okay.
And for me, what I'm gonna have her do is I'm gonna have her work on a specific project, right? Okay. And I'm gonna watch her and see how effective she is at it. And quite frankly, the project is going to be client retention.
Okay.
Right. And making sure that my persistency stays at a certain level. That's what I'm gonna have her do. Because I have too many clients now where it's 365 days a year. I have probably over 3,000 to 5,000 people I need to touch.
Wow.
I can't do that by myself and actively build my business. So now I reached a point where it's like I gotta bite the bullet, man. I gotta find somebody and have them. I can't have that person do the sales management. Can't have that person do the coaching and everything else I do. But the one thing I can have them do is that it's not required is follow people and make sure happy clients and then identify issues. If there are issues there, identify how to resolve those issues so they stay happy clients. So that's what I'm gonna have the person do.
How will you monitor her or him?
So there's 3 things that I'm doing. Number one, I'm giving them access to one of my platforms. So they're gonna have access to a certain list of clients. Name, email address, phone number. and I'm going to have them call them. And the way I'm going to track is we're going to have weekly, just quick IDS meetings. How did this go? How did that go? How's the script working for you? What type of conversations transpired? The other thing I'm going to do to track that retention is literally track the retention. So I'm going to give this a 2-3 month, this project 2-3 month period of time, term, if you will. And I'm going to see if that persistency goes up. Because I know the reason why my persistency isn't where it should be is I don't have the time to follow these individuals. If this person's effectively following up, then I can track that. The other thing that I'm going to do, because I'll be transparent with you, I really am not at a stage in my business where I have so much going on. I cannot afford to pay someone the kind of money they would want to earn if they were an employee at a larger company. I don't have the budget, right? So what I said to myself is I said, look, if you're following up these clients, I have in my scripts opportunities where you can upsell or opportunities where you can acquire additional referrals. So I got my referral script in there that this person's going to use. And I told them for every client that comes out of your referrals and following up with people on upsells, I'm going to give you a certain percentage of those revenues.
Okay.
I'm going to watch that because that will tell me as well how effective they are at following up with individuals. In addition to that, you already know I have like a handful of different phone lines that I use for each vertical. So I can also every now and again dip in there and see how many dials are going out, what text messages are being exchanged, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And that'll give me an idea of the activity as well. I don't want to helicopter this person because then that's a time suck. Right now, if something is out of hand and I notice right away, something's not right. They're like, nothing's moving the needle. Then I will look at those phone numbers, how many dials are going out, how many text messages, what are the contents of the text message. That'll tell me. But otherwise, that's what I'm looking for.
Okay. I use, cause I've been using, offshore people for a really long time to, like help with my business and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I do is I use Time Doctor to monitor what they're doing. And I find that it really helps me with,
Time Doctor.
yeah, Time Doctor.
Okay.
And you and I could hop on a call and I could show you. It's very, very effective with like what I'm doing because I use it for myself, matter of fact, because I want to know how effective and efficient I am when I'm doing stuff. And I can tell you off rip, like I'm running circles around everybody that's working with me because it's my business and you will too, because it's your business. But it's very helpful because if you have them doing stuff and you're looking at like the system, you can see their productivity and it's very clear who's doing what and who's not doing what. And it will help you to weed out people who are pretending to work. It will help you to, and if someone says they don't want to use that system, then I don't work with them because I feel like, because I interviewed a lady who was going to help as like a TA transaction, like assistant or whatever. And, we went through everything. I created my list of things, tasks, stuff that I wanted assistance with. And, we were going to work off of Upwork, but then she said her account got suspended. And she wanted to like work independently. And I was like, okay, well, this is the system I use. And her response was that she's result orientated and that she doesn't want to be micromanaged. And I said, well, just to give you a little bit of background about me, I've been,
Hold on, and you're paying her, and she's saying that to you?
well, she wasn't getting paid nada at that point. This was just like interview process.
But you were gonna pay her.
Correct. I was interviewing her and I was feeling her out. Okay. And just
those are my favorites.
we're interviewing, we've spoken online, and she seemed very capable. She was saying all the right things. She was familiar with like the systems that I needed her to be familiar with and so on and so forth. And then she said something to the effect of, and actually she texted me and she said that she didn't want to be micromanaged. And she had confidential documents that, so she didn't like Time Doctor because Time Doctor takes screenshots of your screen and what you're working on and what you're doing. Okay. And so I, let it sit there for about a couple hours, and then I responded and I said, well, just to give you a little bit of background about me, like, I started my first business in 2015, and I've started several since then. And I've always utilized some form of tracking what the people who are working with me on my team are doing.
Yep.
And I think that for someone to say micromanage to someone who's, has multiple things going on and is giving you opportunity is um, somewhat of a ridiculous comment to even make, just because the line is, if I'm paying you, I need to make sure that you're performing, because otherwise you won't get paid. Like, there's no reason for me to continue paying someone who's not performing and they're not performing at the optimal level.
Yeah.
And what I've experienced over the years is, as people get like used to what they're doing, some people get complacent. They don't want to start learning new tasks. And so you have to be very careful with what you're delegating out to people and making sure that it's getting done correctly. And so micromanagement is a necessity for a serial entrepreneur and someone who has multiple businesses, multiple service lines, and multiple things going on. Because, like you said, you got 5,000 clients. You can't call every single person and see what's going on. You don't have the bandwidth to do it. And that's not how you level up. So, I thought it was very like comical that she would even mention that and blow that out her mouth. I'm like, okay, so obviously, like, you definitely don't want to work with me because you will be micromanaged, ma'am. Like, what, like, excuse me? Like, come on now. Like, where do they do?
And that's not even micromanagement. That's just tracking.
Well, it's the way that a smart business owner who's expanded their business and who's grown their business and continuing to grow their business and continuing to add different service lines and still wants to do other stuff would handle it. Like, anybody who's successful in their lane of what they're doing has some sort of system in place where they're managing and monitoring what it is you're doing.
Yep.
So, like, make it make sense that you would even feel comfortable to blow that out your mouth. Like, I was just like, okay, well, I mean, I don't know what type of people she's used to dealing with, but obviously she's used to probably dealing with people who are newer, don't really know any better. Cause, like, I'm on a prayer call and a lot of those people on there will be talking about, their TAs and stuff like that. And, like, their experiences. And I'm just like, like, and I told them all, like, about Time Doctor. And cause like a lot of times, for example, you might work with somebody from, a different place, and they might be like, oh, we're having, bad weather, this and that, they'll make up something. And I always let them know, like, you need to let me know immediately what's going on, because if it's going to impact my day and my schedule and the things that I'm delegating out to you. So if at 3 o'clock in the morning that, whatever, you guys got a tsunami coming, you need to text me, Skype me, let me know right then and there, like, hey, we're about to have a tsunami. I'm gonna check, verify, fact check, everything's available on the news and on the internet. And just to make sure that it's, really happening, so that you're not caught off guard. Like, you don't hear from them for 2 days and then oh yeah, this and that. Okay, well, I mean, it doesn't take, like, if you have a designated day that you get paid, it doesn't take me 2 days to reach out to you and say, oh, by the way, I forgot to pay you. I don't forget to pay you. So you need to give me the same respect. Like, this is business. So, a lot of them, to me, they're like, they do it because they can. Like, they don't realize that, like, for me, I've been doing it for a long time. You're not gonna, if you're not using Time Doctor, you're not working with me, period. Point blank. It's not even nothing else to discuss. But I did give her the option of continue to work on Upwork. I said, look, I don't mind trying you out if we can work on Upwork, because they micromanage them there too. Like, what I'm saying? So it's very much like a controlled situation. And I have a lady who's helping me with the property management service line, and she's excellent, but she's on Upwork, and and I'm comfortable with it. But yeah, it's funny though how people will, tell you stuff like that, and you're like, okay, so you do realize that I was the person who's going to be cutting the check, right? I mean, did that, like, go over your head? I don't. Like, okay, so.
Oh, let me turn this off. I forgot to turn off focus. It's the text message and phone call will about to start coming in. That's entertaining. Like I said, I'm shocked that she even fixed her mouth to say that to you.
I like, that's why I said I let it sit there for a couple hours, because I was like, well, let me not like just chop it
Immediately,
over, like,
yeah,
like, because that was obviously my initial reaction was like, okay, so obviously you don't want to make any money, bye. But I just let it sit there for, several hours, and then I responded what I said. But I mean, she tried it, and okay, if you can't get your account back working on Upwork, then we won't be working together, because there was like 10 people who responded to like what I posted. It's not like she was the only one. There was plenty of them that, responded, but it's time consuming to interview and do all of that stuff,
yeah,
so that's why I try to, just go down the list, and see who the best candidate, is. So,
yeah.
mhm.
I like it. So talk to me. What do you think? How do you think people need to move or pivot,
For real estate or just in
given
general?
everything that's going on with the country? I mean, oftentimes the assumption is market's correct, and I'm going to wait till the market corrects, and I'm going to buy property and then rent them out or flip them, do all these different things. But this market isn't going to correct, and more specifically, the Detroit, Michigan market is not going to correct. I just don't see that happen. So I've been thinking critically about, okay, knowing that, and I know my situation is different than a lot of other people, but just in general, um, like what are the money moves or strategies or tactics that people who are interested in real estate or quite frankly starting a businesses, period, what do they need to do to ensure they don't get washed out?
I think for people who are doing real estate, I think that you really need to really, really, really super analyze the deals. Like, you
Mm-hmm,
have to really understand what your strategy is, because there's
mm-hmm,
many different strategies, and you really have to crunch those numbers, make sure whatever systems you have in place are very, very streamlined, and making sure that it is what you think it is. You have to make sure that whatever you have lined up is like the best possible deal for you. There's millions of deals out here. Detroit is a mecca for investors. We're in a very unique situation because people from other major metropolitan type cities like
yep,
Chicago, New York, Miami, they're flocking here like
mm-hmm.
by the dozens, and they're investing here. And so we're in a very unique situation here. There's a lot of deals here that, the numbers make sense, and, it's easy to get stuff going. It just has to make sense for you and what you're trying to do. I think people need to be aggressive and assertive and ready to execute. I think
So
analysis paralysis is what has people losing out on great opportunities, because when you're
yeah.
over analyzing something, it's like, okay, you like keep, going over. If you're really not feeling it, then don't do it. Like, trust your gut too. But if you're in it to win it and you want to execute, then, and the numbers make sense, then execute. Don't talk about it, be about it.
So here's the thing. Like, I guess the question I would pose is, where do you think the market is going? So I'll give you a case in point. Um, I can't remember who it was, man. I talked to so many people. But anyway, I was talking to a younger entrepreneur, a couple of days ago. And we were having this conversation. And she's like, so what are you looking at investing in 2025? And I said, man, I got a mind to start looking at duplexes and multifamilies, which, is the area I specialize in anyway.
Mhm.
And I really do have the mind to just find I don't need to find a good contractor. I know who I would use. To find these duplexes and multifamilies, add a bedroom, and literally start renting places out by the bedroom. I'm really of the mind. I think
Like house hacking,
no,
basically.
I can't house hack with the kids, and
Well, no, not with you and your kids,
but
but
yeah,
like your properties that you will be renting out, you'd be house hacking those properties.
yeah,
Because instead of renting it out by the unit, you'd be renting it out by the
by the
room.
bedroom,
Yeah.
yeah.
Hmm.
And I'm giving strong consideration to that because I just firmly believe that as house prices continue to increase, the median income of the average Detroiter is not going up along with it. And saying this 20 years ago, people would have laughed you out the room. But I really do believe there's going to be a growing population because, you know, it is what it is. People are not getting married. People are not having children.
But they're
People are
delaying it, you know.
yeah, they're living these single lives. And as opposed to paying $1,500 for a studio, I think people will pay $800. Nice kitchen, nice living room, shared living space. I think there are people who are willing to do it, and I think that population is growing. Those are the types of things I'm thinking about. Like, how do we get ahead of what's transpiring, right, in the market overall? Like, I want to get ahead of it, right? You know, I'm thinking about even assisted living. Now we have especially here in Detroit, we have like an aging population. And once again, they're not going to be able to afford these prices. It's just no way in the world. I think you're gonna have more people actually choosing assisted living, not necessarily because they need the type of assistance you would typically think, but they're like, man, forget this. I don't have it in the budget living off Social Security and what little retirement assets I have to even grab some of these apartments because the rent's starting to go up places too as well. I mean, those are the types of things I've been thinking about. I'm curious, like, what goes through your mind when you think about, like, how do I get ahead of this thing? How do I get on the right side of the fence?
I think like for me, you know, multiple streams of income is always the name of the game. Being able to pivot if you see something kind of like dwindling down, which is what we actually did during COVID. Me
Mm-hmm.
and the team I have, we pivoted because primarily, you know, pre-COVID, we were primarily doing mortgage field service work, you know,
Yeah.
just straight contracting. And I loved it and I love it still. And, you know, that's how I came into the game. But we pivoted and we started doing more real estate stuff because, you know, we've always worked with investors. And so I think that's important too, is like
Mm-hmm.
being able to like read the signals and say, okay, I'm still going to do this thing over here because I have the relationships and it's trickling in or whatever the situation may be, but also saying like, okay, like how you're saying about house hacking the properties that you're going to be acquiring. I think that's a great idea because so many people are doing it, you know, of course, not house hacking your own personal property because that's
Yeah.
just too much, but like for a property that, because I have a client that's doing that with her Airbnb. We're actually under contract. It's pending. We're about to close probably this week. It's a real nice one too. Oh, it's nice. And it's a higher price point house. And so she was Airbnb-ing it by the room. And it was working out great. You know,
Yeah.
they have like the shared, you know, kitchen, living room, all of
Mhm.
that. And you know, they would rent it out and, you know, do what they did, and that was
So,
that.
so, so here's the question I have for you because you just said something that caught my attention. You said you pivoted.
Mhm,
So you were
absolutely.
servicing contracts.
Yeah, we were doing mortgage field service contracting work, which is like companies like MCS, Safeguard, um, Guardian Asset Management. If you've ever been into a house that was in foreclosure, you've seen those signs in the
Yeah.
windows that say, hey, this property is being maintained by such and such and such and such.
Yeah.
That's what we would do. We would go in and we would do, you know, their property preservation, their evictions, their REOs, like the contracting side of it.
Yeah.
And so we were doing it. And like I said, pre-COVID, it was phenomenal. Like we
Yeah.
call that the Pablo Escobar era in our office. Like it was like for real, for real. It was
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
it was phenomenal. It was hell of a, but then during COVID, you know, you had people who didn't want to work, people who just, you know, shut down. There people were emotionally, you know, going through whatever. And then the work kind of slowed down because, you know, we had all that time where people couldn't leave, couldn't do this, couldn't do that. I mean,
Yeah.
it was steady, but it was like the Pablo Escobar era was over. Okay.
Yeah.
We could feel it. Um, and so then like post COVID, and then part of the problem too with those clients is they haven't changed their pricing because they have like set pricing for certain things. They haven't changed their pricing in like 15 years. Anybody who's involved in the industry will be like, yeah, that's why they can't get anybody to do any work because their pricing is just not on par with the inflation. And,
Yeah.
like during COVID, the prices of wood and material just like went through the roof. And people were like, like people who were doing new builds couldn't even get their houses completed because
Right.
of just the shortage of inventory, this and that. And so it was just a crazy time. But yeah, we pivoted. I saw it coming. And
So
then
you pivoted into
into doing more things with the real estate service line, dealing directly with buyers and sellers. We were
yeah.
still dealing with investors, but we were able to offer what I call one-stop shop. We can help you with everything. We can help you with acquisition. We can help you with renovations. We can help you with securing tenants. We can help you with cash for keys if you
I
have
got it.
performing, non-performing tenants, whatever you need. We have the tools to help you with everything you need. And then of course, we do off-market stuff too. So we were able to pick up like several different service lines just off of that.
So here's the question I posed. I mean, for me, one of the most important lessons that someone passed on to me years ago, and I didn't understand it at the time, but I very much understand it now. He said, you need to always be paranoid. He says, you need to be paranoid about the thing that you don't know that's coming, or be paranoid in the sense that know that at some point the gravy train may dry up in what you're doing now. And be aware of what the next pivot's going to be.
Oh, I agree.
Me, in the space I work in, I mean, man, a lot of these B2B consulting people, it's over with. AI is going to duplicate their booklets. The information that's being dispensed, you can find it a lot more easily. So rudimentary things you need to do to get a business up and going, and accounts payable, accounts receivables, and structuring, and all the stuff that these people are out here charging for, even helping a person build their business credit. That's about to be a wrap, right? There are programs out here that will walk you through step by step how to build your business credit. So people are out here, getting people to pay $3,000 and $5,000 and $10,000 is something that someone can do for $250.
And too, like there's so much free information out here too. There's like all these YouTube videos, and even with PPLSI, like you can talk with someone there, like, hey, how should I go about doing X, Y, and Z?
Yes.
And I think like people get in this space because I just had a conversation with somebody on Friday where they were like doing all these classes to do this and do that and learn about trusts and how to set it up. And I'm like, well, PPLSI will do that for you for like $250. I was like, Mr. Buford was telling me about it. And it's like, I would rather pay the $250, have somebody else that's like, this is your niche, this is what you do, help up on it for me, get it all the way together for me, than for me to spend like 10 hours of my own time trying to learn about it. Like, I don't need to learn about it. I just need to work with somebody who already knows this is what they do, and like have them handle it for me. And I think people are missing the point sometimes when they like don't, utilize the tools that are right at your fingertips. And that's the problem too, is like, like you said, I agree with whoever your mentor was that told you that, because I've always, since I started, I've been blessed, knock on wood, to have amazing mentors, people who like just came, like they just showed up like right in front of my face. Like I didn't even know at the time when I was meeting that person that that they were going to be like a integral part of like my business, and whatever, like just chance meetings with people. And they've given me lots of advice like similar to that, like always be ready to pivot, never assume that something's going to last forever, and make sure that when you're doing stuff with intention, and like hey, we can turn this into this, and this.
So what's the next pivot for you?
The next pivot for me is focusing more on passive income, and building up the team on the different service line with PPLSI, getting more people who are really having the same energy as me, that see it like as like, okay, this is something that could totally change not only the people that you're helping's lives, but your life as well. That's my focus. I mean, obviously we have pretty much a lock on the real estate service line, what we're doing. I'm super busy with all of that stuff, but
Do you
like
see a pivot there though? Even in real estate, I mean, do you
I
see
do. I do. I
what?
see a bit as far as like you know, we offer multiple service lines, but really kind of pivoting in terms of focusing more on my own projects, one. Two, staying away from headache money. And what I mean by that is like, sometimes you might meet somebody, whether it's an investor or a buyer or a seller, and you can just like feel the energy is like, okay, yeah, you can do this deal or you can work with this person, but you know it's going to be a headache. I want to be in a situation where I feel like, you know what, this really probably isn't the right situation. I'll just refer this out, still make a cutoff of it, and then, you know, conserve my time to do something more worthwhile, another income generating activity, as opposed to like dealing with this person who I know is going to be a total headache.
Yeah.
Or this situation that's going to be a total headache.
Okay. All right. Do you see a pivot on a macro level? Like I know the pivot I'm gonna have to make on the B2B side, right? I'm thinking like macro though, like in terms of real estate, like where is the real estate market growing? So for instance, something I've been thinking about is, for the last several years, you were smart to avoid commercial. I mean, there were some people went in, but for the most part, commercial got its clock cleaned, right? People stop working in these buildings. Now you drive through these cities and you see all these empty spaces. I've been thinking critically about how, these companies are calling people back to work.
A lot of them are.
Yeah. So for commercial space, that's going to recover. I don't know to what extent, but it's going to recover. It's not going to be the black hole that it was over the last several years. But you have people who've been accustomed to working at home, returning back to these commercial spaces. What are some of the services and opportunities that are going to present themselves aside from buying a commercial space yourself? You know what I mean? Like, what type of amenities, what needs to change in these environments? Because you're calling these people back to work in these spaces, but it can't be like the way it was. Because you're going to get resistance. You're going to get pushback. It's human nature. People have been accustomed to being at home. There are certain conveniences they're going to want. I've been thinking a lot about that, right? Daycare services, things like that. Like, where do you see some of this stuff going?
Well, daycare for sure, because I mean, a lot of people, most people have kids or even have pets, whatever. Daycare for your pet, daycare for your kids.
Yeah.
And then too, like those kiosks where like at the grocery store where you can like do your Secretary of State stuff, or what like pay your bills. Like for some people who don't, want to do it online, because you've got some people who they just don't like doing stuff like that online. They like to put their money in someplace and do it. So I see that too, like, having the, those kind of things available to people so that it's convenient, because if you're expecting them to leave their house, put gas in their car, drive to work, they're going to have less time to do those necessities. So that I think that's definitely something that,
that's interesting. You're right.
Yeah, because I mean, you figure like if you're a mom, right? And my mom was a single mom. You have to excuse the background noise. They do this every time I'm on the phone. I need to just let them out real quick. But my mom was a single mom, and she she works like several jobs. And so, she had limited time to do stuff. And I think, having a kiosk there to be able to pay your bills, do this, do that, whatever you need to do is going to help you save time. Lots of it, So, or even like having a service where like say you're working and you don't really have time to, because a lot of kids have like multiple like hobbies and sports and things that they do. So if you have like, let's say you have 3 kids and you have one child who does ballet, one child who plays violin, one child who plays soccer, one child who plays soccer and does karate, like you need basically like a chauffeur to, to and from these events, these people want you to bring food. The parents have to like take it's like a very integral thing that you're doing. And if you're like working 40 hours a week, how do you really have time to facilitate something like that? So maybe services that help, working parents to
Concierge services.
exactly, like a concierge service for like, the professional person who has, kids that need a chauffeur, or need, like a personal assistant to help with, okay, this week is your week, Mr. Buford, to like bring the lunch stuff or the drinks or the whatever for like, this event, you have to like do this stuff. And then sometimes they have like back-to-back games where it's like, okay, so like the whole day we're like chauffeuring and we're doing this and doing that. There's a lot that goes into it. So I think if you want people to return to work and they're not really working on their own schedule, there's going to be definite need for that for sure.
So fascinating. I was literally thinking about that today. Like I have a couple of days this week where I'm going to be taking the kids to and from. I have events to prepare for, food needs to be dropped off, all these other
absolutely all the stuff I just mentioned.
Yeah. And I'm like, man,
like, how am I going to do this?
This is going to take years off my life. It's like if I have one hiccup, one late this or
and it's all downhill from there. It's all bad. It's going to be all bad.
Yeah, it's going to be a mess. I mean, and it's like I have people around me, and I, almost beginning where ending where we began, right? Having people around and make sure you have the right people around so you can execute, so you don't have to have your brain being
or just totally forget something. Because when you're going to do stuff, it's very, very easy to like, this has happened to me where I might have a conversation about somebody who's in an unfavorable position, who maybe needs my assistance with something, have that conversation during my work day, and I'm like slammed busy. As soon as I get off the phone or we have the conversation, I immediately forget about it because I got some other stuff going on. And then I'll think about it later, like at 3 o'clock in the morning when I woke up, like, oh, damn, I forgot to do that. Like it, and it happens because you're busy and you just got, you're jumping from one task to the next task, to the next task, to the next task. And of course you're taking notes and writing stuff down and making lists of stuff you're supposed to be doing, but it's always going to be stuff that falls through the cracks, especially for people who are super busy. That's just what it is. You can't help it. And it's never intentional. Never.
I'm going to have to earn an additional 30K to 40K to take on a service like that. It's about being necessary.
Well, it is going to be
necessary. I'm literally going to have to look at my revenues and say, look, I need to do an additional 30, 40K more.
Yeah, be able to afford something
because it's coming.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think whoever starts a business like that or has a business like that is going to be like,
they're going to be winning.
They're going to be winning, and they're going to be really able to create lots of jobs, lots of opportunities for people, and, create solutions for lots of people too, because that's what it really is. It's a solution, because if both you and your husband are working, or if you don't have a husband or a wife or whatever, if it's just you and you're like, at the helm of the ship, you got to figure stuff out. There's really nobody else to go to like, hey, so-and-so has such and such, such and such. How are we going to work this out? It's just, you got to figure it out. You're the mastermind behind the plan. The buck ends and stops with you, So yeah, definitely, for sure. It's a lot. It is a lot.
Man, if I had the bandwidth for patience for that, or if I knew some people who had the bandwidth and patience for that, man, that would be, I don't know, like people who do residential cleaning, making the pivot to a concierge service would not be nearly as difficult as they think it would be. That's interesting. Matter of fact, if I ran a residential cleaning service, that's exactly what I would do. You're already in the person's home. You've already earned their trust.
Right.
So
additional service lines that you offer. It's just an expansion of what you're already offering. That's all. And if you already have a clientele, of course they're going to deal with you, because why would they? It's just like with me and with the real estate stuff. Like, say I meet an investor and this person they only speak Spanish. So they're communicating with me. They know I speak Spanish. I'm from the community as well. they get the property. Now they want someone to manage it or find a tenant. Bam, I'm getting that too, because they already know, like, and trust me, and they don't want to deal with anybody else. And they've heard, negative stories about whatever, or maybe even had a negative experience. So it's definitely like, and it's the same could be applied to that. Like if you've already doing residential cleaning and you have these people's trust, you're in their houses. Cause I've never, like the lady next door to me, she has somebody coming over to her house cleaning up, and I've seen them over there, and I'm gonna ask her about it, like just like in conversation, because we're like okay or whatever. I'm like, how does she feel about it? Because she's got like a small child that her and her husband like adopted. So yeah, because I mean the lady's got her little logo on her van and everything. I'm like, yeah, so I mean that would be like great for that person to pivot into that, being able to like, okay, you need that person to go do your grocery shopping. You need that person to go pick up your kid. You need that person to bring your kid home and make them dinner, help them with their homework, whatever the case may be, I mean, that's beautiful.
Man.
And meanwhile, the cash register is just cranking. So
I'm running away from the service industry. But just thinking about this conversation we just had in terms of all the different opportunities that are going to come up with these different shifts, I'm actually getting excited about certain verticals in the service industry. I'm not going to do it.
No, but it's just
man,
it's
there.
It's somebody who maybe we might meet somebody on one of our exposures who they're already in that, and it's something that they might be looking to partner, or they might be looking for a consultant to help them.
That's true. Yeah.
Like, because I've been thinking about that too. Like, I feel like I never mind paying it forward and just sharing information for free with people. It's like not a big deal to me. But a lot of people who have like interacted with me, other business owners, other people, like especially from the contracting side, they'll be like, man, like you should do like consulting. You should, do like YouTube videos, classes, tutorials on like how to set up your like intra-office stuff. And I'm like, yeah, I have been thinking about it. That's why I started using people on Upwork, so I could kind of like, start different projects, start different service lines. Because you can't build if you're doing everything yourself. But some stuff, and I know you'll agree, you can't delegate out. Like I was just explaining that to one of my investors who's very needy and who didn't listen to me, and now he's really regretting the strategy we implemented. I'm so serious. Like this guy is like, he's a typical, person who's very masculine and probably doesn't have a lot of respect for women, but for whatever reason, he decided to work with me. And, I told him what I thought would be the best way for him to be successful here. He did the exact opposite of what I thought he should do. And now he's got a non-performing tenant and an underperforming tenant. And it's like, well, you're pressed because you didn't listen to the person you hired to give you the best advice. Like I know, right?
So crazy.
I know the rental market. I know Detroit like the back of my hand. I know zip codes. And I told him that the move he wanted to make was not the best move, and he decided. And I handpicked properties that I knew had met the tenants, had been inside the houses. These people were performing. They were agency tenants. So the minute you sign on the dotted line, you got money coming in like butter, baby. Take it to the hole. It's right there. And he opted not to do that. And he's been grabbing his ankles on the front lawn since then. So
that's hilarious.
I'm serious. And the other day I was like, I in a professional and feminine way, in a gentle way, I was like, I told you so. Like, I already saw this coming. Like you just don't listen. And I got somebody today too. I'm about to go look at a property, presented them something with a silver bow. It was on a platter. Like, look, you say you want to do X, Y, and Z. He was throwing magic numbers at me about what type of rent he wanted. And I was like, okay, let's do it your way. He's already been bamboozled by a wholesaler who had him buy a property, and he's just been losing money. And he's like, oh no, I want this one. I'm like, okay, cool. No problem. I'll go take a look at it for you. Already sent over the offer. It's all good. I mean, but he's
Yeah.
gonna be in that I told you so category too.
Yep.
Silly.
Man, that's crazy.
It is crazy.
That's a whole other rabbit hole we can go down. We're not gonna do it this
Yeah,
time. But
we have
that,
like thousands of topics to cover on the podcast. So it's no shortage of material. No shortage.
all right. Well, look, go out and crush it. I know you and I are going to end up convening sometime over the next 24 hours.
Oh, absolutely. Because I'm
Yeah.
trying to set up some three-way calls. I had some very powerful exposures, like people who really the energy was there. Like a
Mhm.
little bit I told them about it. They were like, oh yeah, that's something I'm definitely interested in. So I'm looking forward to following up with those people, getting on three-way calls this week with them. There's several of them. And they all work in like service industries. Like one person is like an insurance agent, and has been for like 10 years. Another person, he's an investor and he listens to me. He does what I say and he's winning. He's got a great tenant. He's
Amazing how that works.
what?
I said amazing how that works, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And he's very happy. He's
Mhm.
he's like it's like whatever I can do to help you, I'll write reviews, whatever. I'm like, yeah, whatever and he referred me to somebody too that, obviously they've already got properties or whatever. But yeah, so I'm looking forward to this week, looking forward to connecting with those people and also too like just going through because I have like probably no bullshit like maybe 10,000 contacts in my phone. I was just
Mhm.
looking in my KV core, there was like 9,000 something something. Like some of them are kind of like I don't have all the information in there,
Yeah.
but a lot of them, it's people I could just reach out to, especially people in other states because you had said something to me about we were talking about something, I don't even remember what it was, but it was like I think it was about a dud. And you were like, yeah, we need to like look out of the local area and try to like, focus on a different area. So I do know
Yeah.
people in other states. So I'm like, yeah, let me start reaching out, and try to start, doing some stuff like that with, outside of this state.
Mhm.
So
Got to get out the ecosystem.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, for
All
sure.